anyone who was abandoned by everyone close to her. Everyone who should have loved her turned against her. And what did she do? She turned against the only person in the world that loved her, the person who suffered the same fate as her. She was also abandoned and disgraced. She was her mother. And guess who this horrible, cruel, and heartless person is? It was me, Mary Tudor. My parents' marriage was a journey that started on earth, stopped in heaven, that ended in hell. My mother, the beautiful, intelligent, kind, and sweet Catherine of Aragon, was the princess that every European monarch wished to marry. But her parents, Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon, gave her hand to Arthur, the Prince of Wales. They married in 1501, but Arthur died 5 months later. My grandparents demanded the return of their daughter, a huge dowry of 200,000 ducats. King Henry VII couldn't be parted with the gold and silver coins, and had no plan to lose his alliance with Spain. So instead, he offered his second son, Prince Henry, to take over where Arthur had left off. But Henry was only 10 years old at the time, so Catherine had stayed in England to wait for him to grow up. Believe it or not, she became the first female ambassador to Europe in the history, and in 1507, then she married my father in 1509, and for 6 months in 1513, she was the regent of England when my father was away in France. And during the Battle of Flodden, her emotional speech about English courage was a big reason for the huge victory that followed. What a girl. She played the part of a devoted and loving wife very well. Despite the many extramarital affairs that my father had, she never complained. While as a fertile Spanish lady, she got pregnant only 2 months after the wedding, but miscarried her baby girl in January 1510. 4 months after the miscarriage, she was pregnant with my brother, Henry, the Duke of Cornwall. The baby was born on January 1st, 1511, and died February 22nd, 1511. Then, in 1513, my mother gave birth to a stillborn boy, followed by another stillborn boy in 1515. And then, on February 8, 1516, I was born. After my joyful birth, my mother had another miscarriage in 1517. And then the last baby girl was born in November of 1518. She only lived a few hours.
I loved my beautiful Mary since the day she was born. I did not dare to love her too much, as I was afraid to lose her like I lost her many brothers and sisters. But that strong little thing wiped my worries away and became a smart, tough cookie. I once bragged to the Venetian ambassador that this girl never cries. Gosh, how I wish Mary were a boy. She inherited warrior spirits from both sides of her parents, the spirits of great kings and queens. She could have been the king that everyone feared. Well, she did become the queen that everyone feared, the Bloody Mary.
Unlike most royal children who grew up living with nannies and tutors, my mother was very close to me. She was also involved in my education, and actually, to make sure that I got the best education, she commissioned the humanist Juan Louis Vives to write De Institutione Feminae Christianae, a treatise on the education of girls. Showered with love and attention, I was able to read and write Latin by the age of 9. I learned French and Spanish and music and dance and Greek. When the hope for a son had faded, my father's love for my mother also faded, and I became the casualty under the crossfire.
No, although I was deeply disappointed with Catherine's failure to give me a son, I was still kind to my daughter Mary. I had plans to marry her to the son of Francis I, the King of France. But when that did not work out, I planned to marry her to Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, her cousin. That agreement was mutually canceled a few years later because Charles, the 27-year-old emperor, just couldn't wait for King Francis I for the badly needed French alliance.
You know, Francis I ended up marrying my aunt, Mary Tudor. He was too old even for her. Obviously, to my father, I was just a disposable political asset.
That is so unfair, Mary. Do you remember that in 1525 I sent you to the border of Wales? I let you have your own court at Ludlow Castle, and many of the royal prerogatives reserved for the Prince of Wales. Many people called you the Princess of Wales. It was clear that the whole world considered you the heir to the crown.
Yes, I was given the honor temporarily and stayed near Wales from 1525 to 1528. I came back when my mother and I fell off your favorite list. This stress caused me to get sick. I fell into a depression and started to have problems with my menstruation. In 1533, my father declared marriage to my mother voided and married his pregnant mistress, Anne Boleyn.
Who are you to judge me? I gave you honor, power, and life. I could have taken it away at any time. My duty to my country was to have an heir. Your mother failed to deliver that. You failed to deliver that by being a girl.
You can have your mistress and your other children. Why do you have to disgrace my mother and me?
Disgrace? I let your mother keep the title as Princess Dowager, as a widow to my brother Arthur. She disgraced herself for dragging the war with me. I need to marry Anne so that my son could be born legit.
You could have had legitimate children with Anne without making me illegitimate. Why didn't you do that?
To marry Anne was a must. To make you a bastard, that was also a must. As I couldn't have children disobey me the way you did, you didn't deserve to be my daughter.
So my father took away my title as princess, took away my allowance, and my household. And he made me a member of Princess Elizabeth's household to humiliate me. I refused. Then my father put me under house arrest. I thought I would be better off dead. I got sick often, and even the doctor thought it was from my father's ill treatment of me. The imperial ambassador, Eustace Chapuis, was kind and tried to intercede on my behalf. Of course, it fell on deaf ears. My father and I did not speak for 3 years. When my mother was ill, I was not even allowed to see her, and that also made me ill. In 1536, my mother died, and I never even got the chance to say a last goodbye. However, Queen Anne Boleyn lost the king's love very quickly after failing to deliver him the son she had promised. In 1536, Queen Anne lost her head to my father's rage, and 2 weeks later, my father married Jane Seymour. Jane was kind and good-hearted, and she convinced my father to accept me back on the court.
When Mary defied my orders and refused to acknowledge Anne as queen, she forced me to show her my bad side. She had been on that side ever since. Jane, my new queen, asked me to make peace with her. Sure. But the king does not make peace with just anyone. The king's enemies had to bow down and beg for mercy.
Removing Anne was like removing a stone between my father and I. I missed my father, and I missed the life I had once had. So I submitted to his authority, and I agreed to it all as long as God and my conscience permitted. But my father refused any change to the terms that he had laid out.
So I made it very simple for Mary. Either recognize me as head of the Church of England and repudiate papal authority, agree that my temporary union with her mother was unlawful, and acknowledge that she was the product of the voided affairs, or never see me again.
In a moment of weakness, I agreed to all his demands. I could never forgive myself. I had betrayed my own conscience, my God, and my poor mother. can never forgive myself.
I was about to forgive Mary, but in 1536, a rebellion called the Pilgrimage of Grace demanded me to make Mary legitimate again. I hated being told to do anything, so I killed them all. But I did not punish Mary. When Edward was born in 1537, I was kind enough to make Mary her brother's godmother. Mary, was I a good father, or what?
In 1537, I was young and beautiful, and I wanted to be loved. Actually, I would have loved to leave England, but my father did not accept Duke Philip of Bavaria in 1539. When Thomas Cromwell suggested that I marry the Duke of Cleves to form a potential alliance, he thought that was a good idea, but married Anne of Cleves to form the alliance instead of giving me away. See, being illegitimate scared away most of my potential suitors, but I could still find a good match for being the granddaughter of the power of the Aragons. However, my father made no effort to find me happiness, and he also refused to provide me my dowry, so I became the girl that nobody wanted. Things got a little bit better when my father married Queen Anne Catherine Parr. She was kind and convinced my father to add Elizabeth and I back into the succession list. However, my father soon died and left the crown to my 9-year-old brother Edward. By then, I was 30 years old. I had declining health and a faded look. Edward hated me for my Catholic beliefs. I thought Edward was brainwashed by his Protestant tutors. I tried to forgive him in my heart. When Edward was younger, he was the cutest and sweetest little boy, and he once said that he loved me the most. But when I saw him in 1550 for Christmas, my 13-year-old brother embarrassed me publicly by reproving me for practicing my Catholic beliefs. I was heartbroken, and I cried. Situations in England were getting worse, so I pleaded for help from my cousin, Emperor Charles. He arranged for my escape from England, but I got cold feet at the last minute. Edward was like my father. He did not forgive disobedience. He took both Lady Elizabeth and I off the succession list. To him, we were not his sisters. We were only his subjects. We needed to do things his way. He gave the crown to Jane Grey, a 16-year-old cousin who knew nothing and was nothing. God took away my mother. I could do nothing about that. My father took away my title. I fought and I lost. But this time I would rather die than to let Edward do this to me. I declared myself the queen and demanded the crown of England. I had nothing to fight against the powerful armies and lords, but God was on my side, and my subjects came to my aid. In 9 days, we had defeated the traitors, and I got my kingdom back. Since that day, I knew I owed everything to God. God put me there so I could carry out his mission to restore the old faith in England. But I could not do it alone. So I again asked for advice from my cousin Charles, the Emperor. He proposed marriage to his son, my cousin, Prince Philip of Spain. There was not a better match in the world, so I agreed. There were furious oppositions in council, but I assured them that my duty as Queen of England was above all, and there was no time to lose if they wanted me to produce an heir. The wedding took place in 1544, when I was 38 years old. Philip was handsome, intelligent, and strong. I could not have wished for a better husband. He was nice and kind to me despite our age difference. I prayed to God to let me have a son, and in 1554, my period stopped and I started gaining weight. I did not mind the terrible morning sickness when the doctor announced my pregnancy. The Parliament even passed an act making Philip the regent in case I died during childbirth. In the last week of April 1555, I released my half-sister Elizabeth from house arrest so that she could witness the birth of my baby. But the baby did not come in April, nor May, not even in June. It became obvious that I wasn't pregnant. I had become the joke of the world. Although I agreed to enforce religious freedom before ascension to the throne, I realized God wanted me to abolish Edward's religious laws. I restored the church doctrines and reaffirmed clerical celibacy. I then approved the Hearsay Acts, which was the reason for the executions and exile of 800 rich Protestants. Many of them were burnt on sticks. However, God did not grant my wishes to have a son, despite my work for him. Philip became king when Charles abdicated in January 1556. When Philip left to handle his new responsibility, I was left alone at home, missing him dearly. Then he came back to England in 1557. I thought I was pregnant again. Again, there were no signs of my baby long after my due date. Humiliated once again, I was forced to declare Elizabeth as my lawful successor. I died in November of 1558. I left my crown to Elizabeth, the product of the unlawful union between my father and Anne Boleyn. My death marked the end of the Catholic